Well, not sure of the quality of this particular bit of the video, but I think the time is coming to an end for this year when I can actually get out and film much of what I want to. You need the very early mornings when you can get out and film and get back home before everybody gets up for work. It's mid-August 2020 and it's now about 5:30 in the morning. We've lost the early mornings, the light is not good, and as you'll find out as we go through here, the light isn't that good at the moment. Hopefully it'll get better, but I'm not really sure what to call this particular video. I think part one of my explorations this week, I'm going to have to say we'll call it "Where has the real stone cross gone to?" There, something to think about. But I'm actually starting in Friday Street, and you'll see opposite the old Friday Street farm. I'm going to try and give some joined up thinking here, because before we get the stone cross, just to explain a little bit, Eastbourne, probably until the 1950s or just before, ended basically at what is now Langley Roundabout, and developments heading out this way towards Howsham were little ribbon developments like old farms in Langley, and then we had here Friday Street. Now, from what I can understand, Friday Street got its name from the fact that they held, I'm not sure whether it was the sizes or trials here, but the circuit judge would come round here on a Friday, and he would hold his court on a Friday, and hence the name Friday Street. Haven't been able to find out a lot more about that, but do you know, I've seen two runners in the last minute. This very, very busy. Friday Street here was mainly a farm, and what I'm going to try and show you is some of the older houses, like those two over there, that they've very cleverly built around. I say cleverly, at least the houses on that side of the road have had some thought given to making them fit in a bit better, and when we get the stone cross itself, you'll find that that's not actually the case. The borough of Eastbourne has expanded greatly over the years, as I'll explain later, but I do know that in 1951 the borough of Eastbourne officially expanded at least as far as what is now the Martello Inn, or the Martello, and Eastbourne Corporation, who used to have a bus route from out here right the way through town out to Willingdon, they had to come to an agreement with Southdown whereby Southdown wouldn't take passengers wholly within the Eastbourne Corporation area. In return, Eastbourne Corporation gave up its routes to Friday Street and Willingdon. I don't want to zoom in because I don't think that's fair on their privacy, but there's some of the older, I say older houses. What would you date them from? 1920s? I don't think they're much earlier than that, are they? And over on the right of me is a more modern estate, 1980s, 1990s, built on farmland. Just showing you how development here. I do apologise again that the quality might not be good because it's low light. And here is an ancient artefact. Well, in 100 years' time it will be. People will say, what's that? Oh, it's a shopping trolley, you know. People go shopping and think it's their property, so they wheel it home. And then they don't want it at home, so they just dump it. Oh, somebody else will pick that up. And you wonder why your shopping goes up every week. That's one reason why. Right, it's actually quite a muggy morning. Now you can tell lockdown is well and truly over, can't you? Yeah, believe it or not, it's the old Friday Street terminus. And looking at those walls over there, and one or two of the original houses, I say original, older houses behind it, you can see how there was probably enough room for a bus to turn round. I'm not going to walk down there. These houses were built, some of them fairly recently, some of them a little older, when this part of Eastbourne was in the Wealden district. Oak Tree Lane was there. It's quite an oldish lane going up to a farm up there with a caravan site, and now it's some people might still call it a caravan site, but it's a more modern posh trailer park home. But you can see these trees have been here for quite a while, and in its day this would have been quite a nice rural setting. Anyway, I need to get down to Stone Cross and get something going down there. So see you in a couple of seconds. Well, a bit lighter now. Until probably the late 1970s, early 80s. This bridge, what a lot of people around here, we say Stones Cross rather than Stone Cross, but that's just a stupid euphemism. The road width underneath here is actually quite narrow. And, I don't exactly know what they did. They lowered the road so you could get more height under the bridge, as you can see there, the way it's been built up. Brickwork on either side. And from the local government reorganisation, I think of 1974, this is now the boundary between the borough of Eastbourne and the Wealden district. and West Ham parish, which I shall talk about later. The reason why I've come under this bridge, because now we're in Stone Cross. I just wanted to show you, and again, I can't go in there, but railway cottages. And when you look at the architecture, and I do know this because I lived in a railway cottage for 10 years or so earlier. The railway companies used to build houses for their workers, particularly their track workers and that, so they could actually live more or less at their place of work. Now, Stone Cross did actually have a railway station, but according to my information, the station itself was actually on this side of the line, and it was originally built by the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway as a halt, desperate to try and get some patronage, given that the railway mania of the 1840s to 70s, wherever you built a station, people would follow and start to live, etc, etc. Well, the London, Brighton and South Coast tried this out, and the Southern Railway closed it in 1935 because I only presume there wasn't enough custom. And it could quite well be that that walkway there is what's left of the original walkway up to the station. I've never really been up here to have a look, and I know it's private. But when you actually look and you see the concrete abutments going up there, that is not what Network Rail or British Railways would normally put going up towards their track. So I think we've actually found the original entrance to Stone Cross Halt. It was closed in 1935, but of interest because you see all these electric multiple units now and diesel multiple units. Well, in the early days of the last century, there were little multiple units or single units, steam rail motors, which were basically carriages into which had been built a steam locomotive at one end, and it was all in one, so it was like an original little multiple unit. They tried these here, but it didn't work out. But there were some buildings, I say, around the old station area. You've seen the station cottages, and there's a row of houses, probably dating back to, what would you say, maybe the earlier parts, the late 19th century, possibly. Very difficult to tell because some of the newer houses back in the olden days, as it were built sympathetically. Difficult to put an age on those, but they are of a style, aren't they? Anyway, time to get up into Stone Cross itself and start walking around. But just to show you quickly over here, and tucked in between everything else, are some of these stone walled houses. They're definitely of an age now. Right, onwards and upwards. Well, here we are in Stone Cross as it is today. It's a real mishmash of building style. This place really started taking off in the late 90s, early 2000s, I guess. And as I'll show you a little later on, shops had closed and now new shops are here. But I did type in my video, "Where has Stone Cross gone?" or something like that. And this is what I've got to try and find this morning. Where is the real Stone Cross? And these buildings over here, I would say, are definitely part of the real Stone Cross. And this main road through here was the original A27, South Coast Truck Road. Pevensey bypass took a lot of the traffic away. But modern development has filled up all the fields over this way to some extent. But I just want to come this far because down over the other side of the hill, which I'm not going down to this morning, there are one or two of the older houses left. But nowadays that's pushing down towards Holgate. But I just wanted to draw your attention to this building in here, which is Hankin Place. And what I guess would have been a gatehouse to what was once quite an extensive estate here. That's it. Now we'll go and have a look for some more of Stone Cross. I don't wear a watch, but judging by the amount of time I've been out, I would guess it's about 10 to 6 in the morning now, and people are up and about on their way to work. Quite an interesting style here, more like New England. I have been to New England, and they've got buildings like that all over the place over there in Connecticut. It's very difficult walking around Stone Cross as it is today to feel any historical connection. That doesn't sound too daft. There is history here, but so many modern buildings now, it just doesn't have that feel about it. And yet it probably had a significance during the time of the Pevensey invasion that nobody really talks about these days. Mr. Julius Caesar, no less, having been repelled once from Britain on the Romney Marshes. The people of Kent were quite a vicious tribe, I understand, in those days, and others didn't have much to do with them. But they fought off the Romans, and then the Romans came here, and as we know, established their port and their castle at Pevensey. Just stopping here at the Stone Cross village sign, which you'll see incorporates the windmill, which we'll go and have a look at in a minute. But to get back to the Romans, at the time they arrived, Pevensey Bay was a different place even to what it was in 1066. From different things I've seen, the sea went further up and further round behind me, and Stone's Cross found itself literally at the crossroads, because the ridge that came from the peninsula at Pevensey ran across here towards what is now Polegate and along the South Downs, and it was crisscrossed by another ridge of higher ground which comes down from what is now Howsham and across into Langley, the Long Island. And so this would have been probably quite significant as a crossroads, although I have a feeling that there were another way across to Howsham, which we'll have a little look at later. But before I talk finally about Stone Cross and all of that, just going to have a look over there. You see some of the 19th century buildings, the white wall ones, and obviously every village has to have a pub, and that's the Red Lion. Do you not think it looks a bit like a railway station? Harvey's had several pubs like that. Remember the Red Lion at Magham Down? That bore a great resemblance to a railway station if you looked at it quickly. Now, I talked about the Stone Cross windmill, and we can just see the top of it there. I'll zoom in. Come along, play ball. There we are. This was one of the last, if not the last, tower mills built in Sussex. And you'll see it has a very distinctive and unique onion-shaped dome. It has been restored and repaired, and occasionally does open to the public, or it will do again hopefully when lockdown's over, and they do grind corn there. It was built in 1876, I think. Now, this road here, I have actually driven along it in the days when you could. This is Peelings Lane, and we'll see the other end of it later on. Now, I'm not going to go very far along here because it gets a bit dark. There's now a little walkway behind the new developments at what they call Fox's Hollow. But I think that this was probably the original route that was either a cart track or what have you, that the ancient Britons who were here, or whichever lot were here when the Romans arrived, used to get from Pevensey here to Stones Cross. And it's possible that the newer road, which we'll see later on when I get into West Ham, was one that was laid down by the Romans. That Stone Cross, quite a rural nature at the time. Now, the one thing the Romans didn't build was a road to London, which may seem strange, but of course Eastbourne didn't exist at the time. This probably wasn't called Stone Cross even. No idea what it might have been called. But you can imagine having been to a party at the Roman villa in what is now Eastbourne by the pier. A drunken Roman finds his way back, and he's standing here and he's at this crossroads of one way or the other. No idea what time of the day it is, even what day of the week it is. And along comes this little local fellow grunting away, and the Roman says to him, "Quod modo ad Londinium," which, as far as I can work out, is a translation for "Which way's London?" Because he had missed his boat which sailed from Pevensey for Limanis 2 days beforehand. I have to stop now because somebody's coming. Just let two ladies go by. I don't like to film people if I can avoid it. A lot of people don't like it, understandably. As I say, yeah, this Roman finds out his ship sailed 2 days ago. Can you imagine it, can't you? Anyway, there's some probably 1930s style houses there. But to get back a bit to the history of Stone Cross, now we come on, and I'm going to go back to 1920 because I found a map of 1920 which throws up something very interesting, and will tell you a bit about the development of Eastbourne too. I've often wondered why the War Memorial, which we'll show you in a moment, is here, and let's walk down to it. And it's because it's the First World War Memorial. And in 1919-1920, when they erected it, Stone Cross was in the centre of the parish of West Ham. And the parish of West Ham in 1920 went westwards in front of me as far as what is now Shepham Lane in Polegate. It went all the way down that way, right down, including the Crumbles, including the coast, and Eastbourne finished at what is now Langley Roundabout, and eastwards it went as far as where the church now is, West Ham Parish Church, and northwards down this road here, these cars have just come out of, it went as far as Blindley Manor. And so this was the very centre of West Ham Parish, and therefore it obviously made logical sense, I suppose, to put the War Memorial in the centre of the parish at the time. St Luke's Church here dates from 1926. Interesting design, and it closed late 1960s and fell into decay during the 70s and 80s, and still up on that roof there, looks like it needs a bit of work doing to it. It's now I think, part of the parish of St Richard's in Langley. But having been revived and opening again 1990s, 2000s, the community here is flourishing, and they've even built a new church hall behind it. So some good news there. And opposite is the Stone Cross Memorial Hall. Not sure when that dates from. I'm going to go and have a look and see if I can find a date. Sometimes you find a keystone or something with a date on it. Anything come in this one? No, right. Interesting with these columns in the front of it. Almost Masonic, I guess. But almost looking at some of these bricks that they've used. You look at some of the doors and they say 1950s. Interesting. And as you leave Stone Cross going down towards Howsham, underneath the Pevensey bypass, you'll see that there are some more older houses down there, and so Stone Cross extended just that little bit further down the hill. Possibly a mixture of houses belonging to different farms, you never know. Anyway, I'm sorry it was a bit bitty, but as you can see, looking for the real Stone Cross isn't necessarily an easy thing. But hopefully I've found a few things that have been of interest to you, and I'm going to continue my explorations.